Inspire with Nendrix, the foundation.
This is Dr. Danielle Hairston coming back to you with a 5-minute quickie for your best life. We just want to talk quickly about being a part of volunteer organizations and the impact that those organizations have on your community, and how desperately these organizations needs people like you, if you are a volunteer, to show up and contribute and be consistent with your support. We know that it's really, really difficult at the end of the day, after you done worked your 9 to 5 and taken care of your children and your family, to then extend yourself to do volunteer work in your community. And so managing that well, managing how much time you're going to invest in these volunteer organizations, managing, what you're going to contribute your talent to, where your talent lays, and if you're applying your talent in the right way is real critical, because a lot of these organizations depend on you. And volunteer management can be very difficult because you're managing a group of people that are not, this is not their job. This is if they feel like coming or not. And what do you do if someone doesn't show up? Like, what do you fire them from volunteer work? I know that there are some organizations that may not let you sign up. Again, if you volunteer to do something major and then you didn't follow through, I know that's the case, but it's very difficult to, manage volunteers, and it can be very difficult for the volunteer to manage their time well enough to invest in the way that they committed to. But we also have to understand that when you have organizations where even the leadership of the organization is a volunteer, that while people will be looking to that leader to guide them, or to give direction, or to, represent the organization out in the community, the work is happening within those subcommittees that the lead is supporting. And so the body and the head has to work together. Right? The head can't function without a body, and the body can't function without a head. So when things are not going well in a group of volunteers, we all have to look within ourselves to determine how we are contributing, how are we showing up, are we being consistent, are we doing what we say that we committed to do, as opposed to putting all of that pressure on the leader, to make sure all those pieces are together when we all individually know what our roles are. And sometimes we have to manage up. Sometimes we have to, if we see things that's not going in the direction that it needs to go, sometimes we have to go to the leaders and say, hey, like, we're doing all of these things. We're showing up. We're doing X, Y, Z. We're making sure that we address the mission and the vision of this team. We're all volunteers, but we need this from you, right? We don't just, because the leader isn't doing what we think they should be doing, that should not be a trigger for you not to do anything. And then later on kind of attack the leader because things have not worked out well, because everyone's volunteers and everyone have their limitations, and things happen, life happen. And so in those cases, we have to learn how to self-relegate, self-manage, and be committed fully in what we agreed to do as a volunteer in this organization, and look internally when things are not going well first. Look internally first, because as a volunteer and as someone who led bodies of volunteers, it's very difficult to do so, especially when life happens and you really cannot determine what obstacles other people are dealing with, right? You have a plan, you have a timeline, you have milestones set, and you don't know what the limitations are of other people. And so while it is my responsibility to do check-ins and, you know, to make sure people are following through and that we're assigning tasks and things like that, things happen. And at the end of the day, as an adult, you know, we already know what we volunteer to do and we already know what our commitment is. And so there's an expectation that we will do some internal checks and make sure that we're showing up in the way that we promise to show up and doing our due diligence before we tear down leadership. So that's just my 5-minute quickie from my own experience, and I just, you know, I'm interested in hearing what you have to say as a volunteer. So comment below, like, share, and subscribe. Go out in the community and embrace someone. They're waiting on you, and continue to live your absolute best life.
We're chillin', having our fun. Come spend the weekend with us in our house.